Hello listeners and viewers. Welcome to Kaduna State Ministry of Education Radio and TV e-learning program designed for our SS3 and other students staying at home due to the coronavirus pandemic. The present administration, under the able leadership of His Excellency, Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, is positioned, as always, to ensure that under his leadership, our students are not left behind in all areas of human endeavors, especially education. Kaduna State is the center of learning. Therefore, we want to ensure that our students excel in their forthcoming examinations and beyond. Students and other learners at home are given this opportunity in order to continue learning, as education is a continuous process. Different subjects will be taught in this program to assist students to perform excellently in the forthcoming Senior School Certificate examination being conducted by NECO and WAEC as soon as schools reopen. Teachers making presentations will always provide their names and phone numbers during each presentation, and they can be contacted for questions, further explanations, and/or clarifications. The following numbers and contacts can also be reached for expression of any concern or observation: 090-865-00545 or 080-383-62072. Our website is www.education.kdsg.gov.ng. Our email education@kdsg.gov.ng or education.kdsg@gmail.com. Our YouTube channel, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Our Twitter handle @Kaduna_MOE. Or our Facebook page, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Stay safe, stay at home, and learn well. Thank you, happy listening, and happy viewing.
Hello learners, you are welcome once more to our lesson today, economics lesson. My name is Obi Ifeanyi. Today we are going to look at the following topic. Though our main topic is public finance, because it is very lengthy, we had to break it down into various subtopics. So today we are going to look at the following: effects of economic effects of taxation. That is number one. The second one is incidence of taxation. The third one is problems associated with tax collection. Economic effects of taxation. Tax has various effects, both on the payer and the producer. So we are going to look at the effects it has economically to the nation and mostly to producers and consumers. We pick them one after the other. It is very important that you listen very attentively and follow the class very, very well. Because tomorrow when you become a tax director in your state or Nigeria as a whole, or normal appointment from the UN, you have to know all this. Even as a governor, even as a Senate President, Speaker of House of Reps, you need to know this. Whether you have studied medicine or anything, you need to know this, because every day you do with economic matters and taxation. And as we know, tax is one of the areas where government get the money in order to foot the bills of administration. Now, let us go to the economic effects of taxation. Number one, it reduces production. If excise duty is high, production will be adversely affected. What is excise duty? You still remember what I told you about excise duty? Excise duty is money that is paid by those companies that produce and sell their products in the country. That is what we call excise duty. So when it is very high, the producer may not have enough money to buy the raw materials with which he will do what? With which he will produce his goods. Number two, it increases prices of goods. The producers will try to recover the amount of money they paid in form of excise duty by raising the prices of goods. It is very, very pertinent. How do they do that? For example, a bread, you produce 10 loaves of bread, normal production price 100 naira, meaning 10 naira each. Now you pay excise duty government takes excise duty, maybe under 100 naira, making the whole price to be 200 naira, because you cannot throw away the government 100 naira you paid as excise duty. So the 100 naira being your normal production cost, and 100 naira that you have paid duty, excise duty, the price now is going up to 200 naira before you now put up your markup or your profit. You see what we mean? So the increase in excise duty tends to do what? Tends to increase the prices of goods. Number 3, it reduces the income of the worker. Income tax reduces the total income of a worker, no matter how low or small it is. Remember, income tax is removed from your salary. Before you are given what we know as you call salary, and we call it disposable income, your tax has been removed. Government normally remove tax before they give you your the one you call salary. So, but when the tax is deducted, the one that you have may not be enough for you to take up your responsibilities. Number 4, it discourages savings. The amount one pays as tax may have been what would have constituted his savings. What are we saying? By the time your government have removed the tax, especially income tax, you now find out that what you are left with may not be enough or constitute what you would have saved. Maybe that amount they have removed as tax was what you are planning to do, what to keep as a savings. So once that money is removed, you may not have anything to save again, thereby discouraging you from savings. Number 5, it causes scarcity of goods. It reduces the quantity of goods produced locally and imported, thereby causing scarcity of goods. How do it happen? It causes scarcity of goods because by the time you increase excise duty and equally increase import duty, by the time you increase import duty, importers may not have enough money to import goods. When they do not import those goods that are needed, thereby the goods are now in a shortage. There will be short in the supply of those commodities, thereby bringing about shortages of goods. For those local producers, if their excise duty is very high, they may not have enough money to buy their raw materials or which they produce their goods, or even pay their workers. Thereby, it causes scarcity of goods. Number 6, it results to inflation. Reduction in direct taxes and increase in indirect taxes will make more money to be in circulation, while few goods will be produced. Remember, I said it results in inflation. When you remember what we said about inflation, what is inflation? Inflation is the continuous rise in the prices of goods and services. And what causes inflation? It is caused by too much money pursuing very few goods, meaning that there are too much money in circulation and very few goods in circulation equally. So when there is too much money and there is not enough goods there are not enough goods in order for people to scamper for, it means that these goods that are not enough, too much money that is in circulation will be following that. For example, let us look at it this way. In a society where you or in a place where you are staying, you require about say 50 bags of rice for your populace. But what is available in the market around you is only 7 bags. What do you think will happen? If the bag of rice is 25,000 naira and people are rushing to buy that 7 bags, maybe 50 people scampering to buy 7 bags of rice, definitely the price must go up. So in that way it causes Number 7, we say that it leads to deflation. The other one we talked about inflation. This time we are talking about deflation. What is deflation? You have to know what deflation is before you know how it will lead to deflation. Remember, deflation is the opposite of inflation. Deflation is the continuous fall in the prices of goods and services. And when this happens, okay, let's take it this way. Continuous fall in the prices of goods and services caused by what? Caused by too much goods and services in circulation while you have a very few money. Meaning, in the other way around, that too much goods pursuing very few money or very few cash. So when we have too much goods in circulation, but there is no money, what causes it? Because income tax has been increased. When you increase income tax, the money at disposal of the worker will be reduced. Thereby, he may not be able to buy enough goods and services any longer. Thereby, the goods and services available will be floating in the market, whereas there is no corresponding money in circulation in order to follow up the goods and services, thereby making the price of goods and services to fall. And when you allow it to fall to a certain extent, the producer may no longer make profit. And when they don't make profit, what happens? They may no longer maintain their machines, they may no longer pay their workers, and it leads to what? Closure or folding of the business. Number 8, it will alter demand and the supply. How do it alter demand and supply? As a result of high indirect taxes, demand and supply will be low because few goods are produced and their prices are very high. Now we are talking about high indirect taxes. Indirect taxes, remember, are taxes or duties that are charged on goods and services, either imported or the ones that are produced and sold in the country, which we call excise duty. So when the prices are very high, then it will alter demand and supply, because there will be high demand for goods, whereas on the other hand there will be low supply of goods. Consumers will increase their demand while suppliers will reduce their supply. Thereby, demand and supply will be altered. Number 9, it discourages hard work. How do it discourage hard work? When greater portion of one's income is taken away as tax, the person will not have the zeal to work hard again. After working, you now find out that a greater proportion of the money that you have worked for has been taken away as tax. So most times when you are asked to come and work, you say, why am I even killing myself? After getting that money now, government will take it as a tax. So it discourages what? It discourages hard work, especially when the taxes is very high, or when the tax is very high, or taxes are very high. It discourages hard work. Number 10, it discourages investment. It discourages investment. If there is high taxation, especially company and excise duty, company and excise duty taxes, both local and the foreign investors will be scared away. So when the taxes are very high on excise duty, remember, excise duty are taxed on goods that are produced and sold in the country, while import duty are taxed on those goods that are coming into the country. And equally, when we are talking about company tax, the tax that companies pay to the government, when it is very high, they may not have enough money to put back into their business to continue with their production, especially the company and excise duty. Thereby doing what? Thereby discouraging investment. When you look at tax, maybe you want to come and invest in Nigeria, you first inquire, how is the Nigerian tax system? If the tax system is very high, you know what, that by the time you pay tax for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 years, you may not have enough money in order to continue with the business. It will discourage the investor from coming into the country to invest. Remember, when we are talking about investors or investments, investors give their investment. That is, they bring in money into a country or into an area, build companies or factories in order to produce 1 or 2 things, in order to do what? To satisfy the need of the people. But when the taxes that they pay to the government is very high, they will now find it very difficult to sustain their production in that particular area or state or country. Let us look at the next one, which is incidence of taxation. Incidence of taxation is very important. What is incidence of taxation? As a student, if you are asked, what is incidence of taxation? Incidence of taxation means the sharing of the final burden or brunt of taxation. That is, who bears the final burden of taxation. When we are talking about the burden, we are talking about who feels the pain. When you remove money, you feel pain. Especially when it has to do with tax. You feel pain, or even buy this, that, and buy that. Who feels the pain when you are paying tax? That is what we mean by incidence of taxation. Who feels the pain? Now, the pain that we feel in the payment of taxes are in various ways. Let us touch them one after the other. I have listed 4 ways where we will look at. Number 1 is when direct tax is involved. So who bears the burden of taxation when direct tax is involved? Remember, direct taxes are paid directly to the government. When we are talking about income tax, it is removed from your salary, making your salary to drop to a certain level. Now, when that direct tax is involved, it is the worker who pays the income tax that bears the burden. As a worker, once the month ends and they pay you your salary, most of you do not remember that you have paid tax. But naturally, especially government workers, naturally, your tax has already been removed before your disposable income is being given to you. So it is that person that pays that tax, the worker that pays that tax in a direct tax, that feels the burden of the tax. Number 2, when indirect tax is involved. Remember, indirect taxes are charged on goods and services, both imported, exported, and those ones that are import, and those ones that are produced and sold in the country. That is excise duty. So when indirect tax is involved, if the demand is neither elastic or inelastic, the producer and the consumer will share the burden. Now let me acquaint you how this indirect tax moves. That's why most times I tell my students that you equally pay tax. Say, hey, no sir, we are not paying tax. It's you people that are working that are paying tax. You pay indirect tax. What is this indirect tax? You pay it indirectly. For example, when we talk about excise duty are paid on goods that are produced and sold in the country. Now, for example, the producers of toilet roll, they are producing in Nigeria, and you as a student, you go to the school shop and buy toilet roll. They have paid that tax to the government. It is the producer that paid that tax to the government. And now the tax he paid to the government, he will recover it through the price of his goods. Let's see it this way. The price of producing this packet of sweet, maybe, let's take it for example, the price is 1,000 naira. And the producer paid government 500 naira. You see, the price is no longer 1,000 naira. He will add that 500 naira he paid to government as that, making it 1,500 naira, before he will now add the profit. So by the time you go and buy that sweet, because he has shared the price and the tax he paid on the price of those goods and services. By the time you go and buy sweet, you have paid the tax that the producer paid to the government, but you are paying it indirect. That's why we say indirect tax. The producer has paid it, and they put the tax he paid on top of his goods, spread it in form of prices or high prices. By the time you go and buy that product, you are now helping in fact, you are now paying the tax, and the producer is now recouping the money he paid as tax through the price that you are paying. Number 3, when demand is perfectly inelastic, the burden of the tax is shifted to the buyer or consumer in form of high prices. What do we mean by when the price is perfectly inelastic? I know you have done demand and supply, and we have done elasticity of demand and elasticity of supply. When we are talking about perfectly inelastic, what is elasticity? Elasticity is the degree of responsiveness of the quantity demand of a commodity to the changes in the price of that commodity or price of another commodity. That is what we know as elasticity. So, but what we are, to a layman, or let us bring it close to the house, what we are not saying is that if we are talking about elasticity and burden, what we mean here is that when after paying the price, that is the producer, after paying as tax a very high price on his commodity, the commodity that he produced, he now put it on top of the product, and that tax that he paid makes the cost of the price of the product to be very high. Now, where elasticity comes in is that I want to explain it to those people that do not even go to school or do not even know what is called elasticity. When he has put in that price that he paid as tax on top of his goods, and it makes the price of the goods to be very high. Now, if consumers buys that product, maybe you normally buy 10 pieces of soap at month end, and you go at the same month end buy the same 10 pieces of soap. Meanwhile, the price has increased, and you still buy the tablet of soap 10. then it is price inelastic because you are still buying the 10. But if the price when the price has increased because of the tax that the producer has paid, and the price has increased, and instead of buying that 10, you buy 1 or you buy 2, that is when we say that it is price elastic, because you have reacted. But when you still buy the 10 you used to buy, then you did not react. Then we say that it is inelastic because you did not react. You are still buying what you normally buy. Thereby, the increase in the price did not lead to changes in the quantity of commodity bought. That is when we are talking about inelastic demand. And when that happens, it is the consumer that bears the brunt of the tax. It is the consumer that bears the incidence of the tax. Why? Because the price is high, and at that high price, he continues to buy the product. So it is consumer that bears the price when demand is perfectly inelastic. Now, when demand is elastic, that is when the producer, after putting that amount, that is the amount he paid as tax on top of the product, after putting it, and people refuse to buy. Just as we say, maybe you used to buy 10 tablets of soap every month. Then, because of the price increase, you now do what? You now buy 2 or you now buy 3. That is what we mean by elasticity, because people have reacted. They have reacted to the changes in price. That is more than proportionate. More than proportionately, as per their reaction is more than proportionate. That is when we talk about perfectly elastic. Thereby, when it happens, who bears the burden? We say that the incidence of the tax is borne by producer in form of low prices of goods and services. Because when he increases the price, consumers will react. They will no longer buy more. So it is the producer that bears the brunt when demand is perfectly elastic in form of low price. Now let us quickly look at the problems associated with tax collection. Problems associated with tax collection. Number one is insincerity of the tax collectors or insincerity of the collectors. The majority are after their own personal purse and are ready to receive bribes, no matter how small, from taxpayers in place of the actual amount they are expected to pay. Number two, false declaration of income. Many workers, especially those in private firms, do not declare their real income. They do not declare their real income. Many workers do not declare their real income. Thereby, it's one of the problems that militate against tax collection. Number three, improper book of account. Majority of the traders do not have improper book of account, or they do not even they don't even do what? Have a book of account at all. Some that have it keep improper book of account. Why? Because this improper book of account is what the tax office is going to look at before they now come out with what you are supposed to pay as a tax when they look at your records. Number four, tax evasion. Many people do not fulfill their civic responsibility by paying tax as at when due. Number five, ignorance of the importance of tax. When we are talking about ignorance of the importance of tax, some people think that the money they collect as tax is for the tax collectors and not for the government. Thereby, they may refuse to pay tax. Number six, cost of taxation. High cost of taxation scares potential taxpayers. When a tax is very high, it will scare the taxpayers away. Number seven, mismanagement of government fund or misappropriation. Now we say misappropriation and embezzlement of government funds by those at the corridors of power may kill the enthusiasm to fulfill civic responsibilities. That is when some people perceive government as people that spend money anyhow, or reckless spending or embezzlement. When you ask someone to pay, they say, I not after paying the tax, they will go and squander the money. In fact, I will not pay anything. but that is not a good thing. You are expected to pay tax once you are eligible to pay tax. Tax is paid irrespective of the amount of services that government provides for you. Number 8, inadequate provision of amenities. People with the belief that the money they pay as tax is used for the provision of social amenities will resist payment of tax if these amenities are not provided to them. So what we are saying here is that in some communities, some people may think we don't have good road, we don't have water, there is no electricity here, there is no hospital here, thereby we will not pay tax. That is what some people think, because they think that when they pay tax, those things are supposed to be provided for them. But the rules of tax says that, or what tax stands for is that once you are eligible to pay tax, you must pay tax, irrespective of what government is doing for you. Whether you have good road, good water, electricity, you must pay tax. We have come to the end of the lesson. Let us look at the following assignment. Number 1, mention the economic effects of taxation. Mention the economic effects of taxation. There are many of them. Remember what I told you? Why we say mention is to test your capability. In your exam, you are expected to mention 5. Even if they are 10 or 11, mention 5 or list 5 and explain them. Don't just mention by listing. No. When we say mention, you are expected to list and then explain. Especially mention, identify, state. When you hear those things, you have to list and explain. Except when you hear list. That is when you can list. They may tell you list 3, list 4, list 5. But when you hear identify, state, mention, you have to list and then explain. So mention the economic effects of taxation. Number 2, what is incidence of taxation? What do you understand by the word incidence of taxation? What is the meaning? B, who bears the burden of taxation in the following? Who bears the brunt, the final burden of the taxation in the following? Number 1, when direct tax is involved. Number 2, when indirect tax is involved. Number 3, when demand is perfectly elastic. Number 4, when demand is perfectly inelastic. Number 3 question says, state the problems of tax collection. State the problems of tax collection. I repeat, the assignments, number 1, mention the economic effects of taxation. What is incidence of taxation? That's number 2. 2A. 2B, who bears the burden of taxation in the following? 1, direct tax. 2, indirect tax. 3, when demand is perfectly inelastic. 4, when demand is perfectly elastic. Question number 3, state the problems of tax collection. My name is Obi Ifanye, and you can get me my number, which is 080-350-328-31. I repeat, Obi Ifanye. 080-350-328-31. If you have any problem, you can text or through WhatsApp or through message to my number, and you'll be very clear. Please, when you are texting, remember to tell us your name and the area you are calling from so that we know the extent of our coverage. Stay home, stay safe, keep learning. COVID-19 is real, and God bless you. Have a nice day.